Your work-life balance, your idea of balance looks different for everyone. There is no right or wrong. Life is not mathematics. You have to find what works for you because at the end of the day, it's your life. Welcome to the Chasing Genius podcast. My name is Crystal and I am your host for the #1 show for creatives in pursuit of their own creative geniuses. Today we are talking about work-life balance. A lot of creatives work full-time. That's the truth. None of us want to be starving artists. There are benefits to working full-time. We have a consistent salary. We have a 401k, health insurance, a nice little PTO. And a lot of times that full-time job is what funds us to have the ability to have a creative hustle and to be able to do our side projects and the passion projects that we love and adore is because we have a full-time job. And I don't think it matters what bucket we fit in because there are a lot of creatives who work in non-creative roles, who work in like STEM, law, teaching, finance, politics, you name it. And then there are creatives who do work in creative roles as art directors, copywriters, journalists, TV, film, stylists. But regardless of what bucket we fit in, being able to have time to pour back into ourselves is something that I find a lot of us struggle with because we expend so much energy at our day job that we don't even have time to pour back into ourselves. And I was someone who I've worked in both a non-creative and creative. For those that don't know, I graduated college with a bachelor's in public health and I worked in research for about 3-ish years. And my job, it did allow me to be creative in some way, being that I was like designing assets for social media and for like certain projects like flyers and things like that. And then on the other end, I was doing like a lot more analytical data and like analysis and literature reviews and writing papers. And I just like at that time, being creative was my outlet of like, after work I would try, or on the weekends I would try to like do shoots with my friends and like feed myself in that way. And I thought, if I just worked creatively, it would be just so much easier for me to find time to just do all that because I would naturally be creating all the time. But I actually found the opposite to be true, being that once I did start working in advertising as an art director, I actually started spending less time creating for myself because I would extend so much energy being creative, coming up with ideas, designing, mood boarding, and I'm also new. So I'm still learning so many new things at this job that I was spending less and less time doing my own thing. And then I realized that this work-life balance of finding time to create for yourself, finding time to recharge yourself isn't something that's just cookie cutter for everyone. It's something that we all experience, whether we work in a creative field or we don't work in a creative field. I, in recent times, have started setting up sort of like boundaries in how I approach work-life balance. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's possible to achieve balance that's like, level all the time, 24/7 for the rest of our life. That is impossible to do because life is dynamic, life happens, life is evolving. Literally, we could have a perfect day and then the next day it'd be like the worst day, and things aren't going our way. Understanding that life is dynamic and always changing, I think it helps to reframe it as like work-life balance will always look different day to day, month to month, year to year. And being able to accept that and being flexible and being able to adapt to that, it will help us a lot more in understanding how we can achieve work-life balance for ourselves. Now, for me, the first thing I can offer up is learn to be intentional. Now, y'all, I just learned what the difference is between goal setting and intention setting, so I'm about to put y'all on. Goal setting, that's something that we kind of all naturally do when we set like New Year's resolutions. Always like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym X amount of time. I want to read this many books this year. For me, I wanted to put a podcast episode every week. That is a measurable metric. One podcast episode every week. Easy, right? Intention setting, on the other hand, is the purpose and the why behind that goal. Why do I want to release one podcast episode a week? I want to learn to develop consistency, and I want to be able to build a creative community of like-minded individuals. That's my intention behind releasing one podcast episode a week. So on the days when I might not necessarily feel motivated to do something that is in relation to me releasing a podcast episode a week, I'm reminded that my intention is that I want to build community and I want to be consistent. So it kind of motivates me to keep going even when I don't see a result, or it feels kind of hard for me to do and I don't necessarily feel like doing that. And I think a lot of times we set like lofty goals, but oftentimes the intention isn't in the right place. We might have a certain goal because we saw someone else have that goal, or because we seen X person did it and then now we want to do it for ourselves because they did it. And it isn't wrong to be inspired to have a goal because we saw someone else have that goal. The only issue is that if the intention isn't pure to us, it's always going to be like, I'm only doing this thing because I saw this person do it, instead of saying I'm achieving this goal, or I'm setting out to accomplish this goal because I want to do this thing. You have to learn to set goals that fit your personality, not create a goal that fits other people's personality or because you saw it on TikTok or you saw it on social media. Setting goals and having the intentions that fit right with you is the only way goals can ever be accomplished. This kind of leads into my second point of learning how to prioritize. We need to learn how to manage our times and keep our priorities straight. There's really no easy way to say this. And I think a lot of us are like, well, everything's important, everything is not important. There are certain things that are important in this moment, and there are certain things that are not important in this moment. But you have to decide what's important to you. Maybe, there are things that are applicable in this time period of your life, and there are some things that might be applicable later in, your life. And there's this saying that Heinz, I'm literally going to probably talk about Heinz maybe once every other episode, because Heinz is such an incredible being. If you do not follow him on YouTube, check him out. He has podcasts. He's a great being. Love him. But he says, just because I can't doesn't mean I won't. Just because you cannot do something in this moment does not mean you will not do it. Remember that, y'all. And when you're managing your time, you got to learn how to say no. No is a complete sentence. Everything that calls your name does not mean it's for you. And in managing your time, you're able to then structure your days to fit what you actually care about, having non-negotiables. And I think when we talk about time management, people are so quick to say, okay, what about this thing comes up, or what if something happens? That's exactly why I said that. Balance and life is dynamic. Life is ever evolving. Things can happen that will throw you off your game, but 90% of the time you probably have a pretty normal day, right? And you're only thinking about that 10% of the time when things don't go your way. And then the other thing that comes up when people talk about time management is creating to-do lists, right? To-do lists, I think we have a general problem. I had this problem where I would make a to-do list and I would have 10, 15 things on that to-do list. I'm not doing 10, 15 things in one day. It's not possible. I get burnt out by the time I'm doing the sixth thing. I think we have to decide the night before 3 to 5 key tasks that we need to do that day and do our best to do that thing. I find that I have the most success when I have a maximum of 5 things on my to-do list. Some days I might get 7 things done, and other days I might only get 3 things done because I'm also measuring what my energy is in the day, right? If it's possible for me to even do all 3 things. But I think deciding the night before of what you're going to do that day, you've set your intention of what your day is going to be like. I'm also considering what I'm doing for work in the to-do list as well. So I might have two really important things for work that have to be done. And then I'll add 2 more things from my own personal to-do list of things that need to get done. It could be editing a video, writing a script for a video. It could be editing a reel, anything that helps me get to my goal, right? To my own personal goals. And I'll pick 2 things off the list and add it to my to-do list. And as the day goes on, first half of the day, I spend doing all my work tasks, doing the meetings, being a good employee. And then at the end of the day, I do the things that are meant for me. And I feel more replenished doing those things because I'm doing something that's for me. And then the last thing I would say is reframe your mind. I think a lot of times we look at things that are meant to be for self-love or self-care and we view them as tedious. It could be as simple as like cooking yourself dinner. It could be as simple as going on a walk or going to the gym or hanging out with friends. You have to reframe your mind for what helps you fill your cup, And for me, yes, editing and recording and setting up a camera and this whole lighting system I got going on here that I'm still trying to figure out truly, it is tedious, right? But I'm looking at it, instead of looking at it as, oh, this is tedious, I look at it as I'm experimenting. I'm doing something that I love. And I'm doing, like, this is my form of self-care. This is my form of fueling into my passions and refueling myself, because there's no way for me to be a great employee at work or a great friend outside of this when I'm not doing the things that bring me joy and make me happy, right? And sorry, I just hit the mic. And that goes the same for cooking, right? For me, meal prepping, some weeks are like, yes, I'm about to cook all these meals. And other days, I'm like, oh man, I gotta make like 3-ish meals to set myself up for work, for the work week, right? But the moment I'm like, I'm doing this because I love myself, because I care for myself, and my future self is going to be really, really happy that they have meals in the fridge, because I find if I don't have meals in the fridge during the workday, I'm going to not eat, or it's going to cause me to eat out a lot more, which is something that I want to refrain from doing outside of like, brunches with friends and things like that, because I also want to save money. So when I reframe cooking as like, I'm doing this because I love myself, it reframes discipline. Like, having discipline is just an act of self-love. We look at discipline as like militant. You have to do this at this time, and if you don't do it, then you're a failure. It's not how discipline is. Like, I mean, it could be what discipline used to mean, but I'm saying for myself, discipline looks a lot more loving. It looks a lot more caring. It looks a lot more welcoming, and it looks a lot more empathetic, and it shows grace to who I am as an individual. I'm doing this because I love myself. Simple. That's how I keep discipline. And the truth is, I just gave all these 3 things that help me to be able to have some semblance of a work-life balance. But the truth is, balance looks different for everybody. Yes, we live in an era where everyone's showing their morning routine, and their morning routine got like 7 steps to it, or they're showing their evening routine and their days in a life that looks so perfect. Your work-life balance, your idea of balance looks different for everyone. Honestly, I feel like I see balance more overall as a year. I think week to week balance is important, but I think the truth is sometimes you are going to teeter-totter. Like some weeks might be more work intensive and then other weeks might be more lax. That's what balance looks like for me. It's like first 6 months of the year, I'm the hardest working person. You might not see me as much. I'm locked in. I'm focused. July, enjoyment. I'm outside. I'm spending time with friends. I'm a summer baby. My birthday's in July. July on the calendar, when I see July, I'm like, this is going to be a month of enjoyment, relaxation, doing things, being outside, enjoying the sun, hanging out with friends, just doing things that replenish me, because I've literally spent the first 6 months of the year doing things that were bringing me closer to my own personal goals. And then come fall and the rest of the year, I'm back into refueling myself, because I'm also an introvert at heart. So it's like I could only really be outside for like for a certain amount of time where I'm like, all right, y'all, I gotta go back and re-energize myself, revitalize my spirit, because you can't pour from an empty cup. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If it ain't nothing in the cup, ain't nothing to pour. So I know that about myself, and that's kind of how I view balance. But on a week to week, I think you just gotta roll with the punches, be able to be flexible, to be adaptable, but also make sure you are hitting the things that you want to do on a day to day. And like I said, like, you gotta commit. Like, whatever it is that you commit to, you gotta commit to it and just do it, and just let the consistency compound. So understanding that we're still different people, and you are allowed to figure that out, and you're allowed to experiment, you know? And another thing that I want to mention is that, like I just said about how I have certain seasons, I kind of look at balance in terms of seasons for myself. There are seasons where certain routines work for you and certain structures work for you. And then there are going to be seasons where that same exact routine that worked for you before didn't work, is not working anymore. And you have to be willing to readjust so that you are able to find that flow for yourself. Because at the end of the day, you know, we want to show up as our best selves. We want to be our best selves. We want to show up in the world as authentically as we can. And we don't want to show up burnt out, tired, cranky, nagging, because we haven't found time to revitalize our energy. So yeah, as long as you're able to set your days, your weeks, your months up in the ways that work best for you, your balance is your balance. You have to find what works for you, because at the end of the day, it's your life. There is no right or wrong. Life is not mathematics. I be trying to tell y'all, ain't no right or wrong. The only way is your way. So thank y'all so much for listening, watching, tapping in. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. Drop a comment down below. What are ways that you achieve work-life balance? Are you struggling with work-life balance? How can I be of assistance to you? And remember, the genius in me sees the genius in you. And I'm always, always rooting for you. Peace.